Good afternoon, everybody. 14th of July, 2023, and I am on I'm on a river here in Minsk, and I got off on the Pershamyskaya metro stop, and it's the only metro stop in Minsk where you exit on the right side. So if anybody gets to Minsk, or any of you maybe live in Minsk, you know, that'll mark this metro stop as something different than all the rest of it. To me, it's kind of like the Matrix. You know, they have this subway stop in the Matrix, and that's what it reminds me of. I think I'm in the bicycle side, so I better get over here. Some guy on a bicycle coming. Yes, okay. Ukraine, boy, some crazy, terrible stuff. As you know, the NATO summit is over now, and Ukraine didn't get what they want, and it's pretty obvious the reason why the West is not really interested in going much farther with Ukraine is because they're not showing any wins, I guess. So that's what it's all based on. Huge sums of money, huge amounts of weapons, hundreds of thousands of lives, and they're not gaining anything. They haven't really gained anything at all. As long as it takes. Makes you wonder. In other words, what they're saying is, well, when something comes up, you know, where it's ended, we can't say that we didn't follow through with supporting you as long as it takes. And you know, you'd think that some leader who watches hundreds of thousands of his people, matter of fact, facilitates the death of hundreds of thousands of his own people, just grabbing them off the street, throwing them into vans, giving them a couple weeks of training, put a gun in their hand, say, point this end at the enemy and put this one in your shoulder and pull this thing. It's called the trigger. You know, a lot of these people, they have no desire to fight against them. And of course, the main areas that they're recruiting from are the areas that are mostly pro-Russian. You know, just in case. You know, it's very appropriate. You know, you go to Odessa, which is a Russian city, still under Ukrainian control, and then they take all the people from Odessa, and then if it ever comes down to it, and Russia wants to liberate Odessa from the nasties, then a large portion of the fighting age men will already have been sacrificed as minesweepers, human body minesweepers on the battlefields. But, well, I'll get into something else too. I could go right into look at this, that's really steep. This is going across the river. Hate to be pushing a shopping cart up here, full of bottled water or something. Anyway, where was I? In fact, there's another bridge over there that you don't have to go uphill. Well, before I get into that, I hope I won't forget. I'll get into how they're recruiting people in a minute, but I first wanted to start off with saying how Ukraine is now really starting to get more into banning everything that's Russian. If it's a Russian book, banned. Get rid of it. Has to be gone. Has to be destroyed. Has to be burned. And they are taking down any street named after a Russian is removed and replaced. And it's pretty funny. They took down a street, and this was all over in Russian on Russian television. There was a street called Theodore Dreisler, and that doesn't sound like a Russian name, of course. I don't know how they thought this person was Russian. Apparently he might have had some sympathy towards communism, probably. But anyway, they took that street down, or that sign, and turns out the guy is American. He was born in, where does it say here? Born in Indiana, and he was a writer. He died in Hollywood. Anyway, he was well loved in America. Well, anyway, they put the new name is Ronald Reagan Street, but so I guess they just got rid of, you know, anything. You know, I tell you what, there are communists in Ukraine too, but I guess they're okay. I don't even know if that guy's really that much of a communist, or if he just had sympathy towards communism. But anyway, you know, I don't even know where I'm going. I'm just on a voyage of discovery. I don't even know. Looks like some kind of a large government building across the street, or across the river there. Looks like a playground over there, maybe for dogs, I don't know. Oh, the rest of the family's coming here in bicycles. Uh-oh, the whole bunch coming on this side too. Some guy in a scooter. I guess I'm probably on the bicycle path. Nobody's complaining. Don't hear any bells going off, nothing like that. Yeah, this morning I woke up and it was about, when was I looking at the news? I think it was about quarter to 5 in the morning, and there was some breaking news, and it was what they believe is a drone attack near. It's I think it's in a part of the city of Kursk. I can't remember the name of it. It also started with a K, but maybe it's not that far from the nuclear power plant. But it was a massive explosion, broke a lot of windows, set off car alarms and things like that all over the area. But it was a really big explosion. And then I haven't heard anything about that ever since. So maybe you guys have by now. I haven't looked at the news for, it's like 3:30 right now, and I haven't looked at the news for at least 4 hours. I don't know. Hopefully nothing bad has happened. Look at the style of this building. I don't know if that's apartment building or, gosh, look at the grass. It's still, that bit of rain we've got, it wasn't enough. So let's go over here. In any case, even if the grass is brown, I'm sure a lot of you look at these videos, and there's so many parks in Minsk and so many nice places. It's completely the opposite of what you're hearing from the Western media. Oh, it's a swimming pool down below. Looks like some kind of a spa. Look, they serve beer over there. Well, let's just get a little closer. No, this is not Cyprus. I don't want to try to get close to showing you all the people swimming. There's not even that many inside there. Get back to the news in a second. I wonder if this is just decorative or a place for kids. Oh. It looks like it's called the Beijing Hotel. And I'm assuming it is this whole complex here. So that's what it's all about. It looks like a nice place here. Look at, it's probably lit up at nighttime. They need to get rid of some of the weeds. So, yeah, let's get on with the news. Like I say, I've never been here. I should also mention, you know, I'm telling you I was supposed to get my hair cut. Actually, I was supposed to get the message on Monday or Tuesday of this week when I'm supposed to go in and start, you know, getting whatever. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not even supposed to be talking about the job. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. No, I mean, not. Oh, anyway, no, that's the old days. No. No, but anyway, technically I probably could say something, but I'm some kind of a superstition thing. If you tell people ahead of time, not just your plans, but you know, if something good or something like that, then it's not going to happen. So I just don't say anything. But anyway, somehow it's delayed, and who knows how long it's delayed. I'm assuming. You know, it's only like actually 3 days of work, but then it could lead to much more work. And pay is pretty good for 3 days. It's like some people get in a month. It's not quite so much, but 3 days it's very good pay for 3 days. So anyway, now you're going to be curious. So now let's talk about the church. I think I have some notes here. Yes. You remember when they raided the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and actually this was a result of the head of the CIA under Trump, Pompeo. He went to Istanbul, and they talked to some somewhat high official, you know, in the Orthodox Church, and it was with Poroshenko and Pompeo, and they went to Istanbul, and they decided to set up their own branch of the Orthodox Church, and that's strictly not allowed under their doctrine, going back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, you know, back when it was established, I guess, by Constantine, you know, in the Roman Empire, when the Orthodox Church was founded, and you're not supposed to be doing that. But anyway, you know, that's in their canons. And so this is a CIA church, the new one. It's called the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, rather than the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. I suppose they named it that way purposefully to confuse everybody, because I get confused. You just have to remember, you have to start off with the word Ukrainian, and then it's going to be the right church. If you start off with the word Orthodox, then it's the wrong one. It's heretical. It's a heretical church. And it's all just based on hatred of Russia. And like I'm saying, they're getting around to now changing the name of all the streets and getting rid of everything. And then I saw also there was a Russian military person. She was a woman, not a combat person. You know, there's support troops and things like that. And I suppose after some village fell to Russia, you know, they go into the schools and things sometimes. At least she was going there, you know, really, you know, and they had all the books there, and it was, you know, telling a whole bunch of the usual things that I've mentioned before and other people have. I think it was Mike Jones had mentioned this, and also was it Douglas McGregor? Yeah, Douglas McGregor, I believe, just recently, not long ago, a couple of weeks, was saying some of these things too. The same exact things that I'm saying is, you know, like the Ukrainians claim that they're the ones that built the pyramids of Egypt, and the Black Sea, the entirety of the Black Sea, that wasn't a sea there, but the ancient Ukrainians dug that whole area out with their bare hands, which created the Black Sea. So they did that. And there's all sorts of other things. And you know the deal, like I think that was called the Holodomor. And they said that the Russians starved them out purposefully, which was, I think, kind of strange, seeing that the president of the Soviet Union was a Ukrainian, like they were most of the time. During the whole history of the Soviet Union, most of the time, the leaders were either Ukrainian or descendants of Ukrainian heavily involved with Ukraine. I think there was only 2 leaders, but you talk about Brezhnev and Khrushchev, and they're all Ukrainian. And Lenin was kind of a mix of different ethnic groups, I believe. I think he was even part German or something, from what I heard. And I think up until the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union, he was the one most Russian out of all of them, and he wasn't even full Russian either. So, like I said, most of them were Ukrainian. Stalin was Georgian. He was from Georgia. And Stalin was he did a lot of good things. A lot of people liked Stalin, and a lot of bad things. He's the one that kind of messed everything up a lot of time by giving certain parts of this country to that country. And of course, Khrushchev did that too. Khrushchev, I think it was 54 or something, he gifted the Crimea to Ukraine, and Lenin gifted the Donbass to Ukraine. And Ukraine, I think, was actually a somewhat small place and never really existed for very long as a country. I think it was for 1 year in 1918 or something like that. They were a country, and then they kind of became a country, I guess, in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And now they claim that they're one of the ancient countries of all time, even though there's no mention of them ever in history. Most people even say that they never were ever a country. They were always a part of the Soviet Union. And of course, you get Russian history, apparently, quite a bit of it has to do with this region called Ukraine. And it was a region of Russia. And, after World War II, and then the USA kind of got excited. You had this Bandera ideology, and he's kind of the one that started a lot of this stuff. That's why he's their big hero or something like that. And he comes from Lvov, which, by the way, was not even a part of Ukraine. That was Galicia, and I believe that Galicia belonged to Poland at that time. So actually, Stefan Bandera was not Ukrainian. He was Polish. He was a Polish guy who maybe wanted to found Ukraine. Wasn't happy with being Polish, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe a lot of this is opinion. I was not a major in Ukrainian history. Mostly a lot of parts of German history. The Great Elector of Brandenburg, 30 Years' War, some around World War II. I studied a lot of that. And, the diplomatic history of World War I under, Bismarck and all that, and that sort of thing, and did research topics, things, it's 3-month research papers and things for professors and that sort of thing. Anyway, that was mostly my subject. And of course, I had sciences. You know how it is in your university sort of a thing here. But let's see. But anyhow, like I was saying, this church, they said, oh, no, we're going to keep them from safekeeping. We're just going to keep them so that the Russians don't destroy them. As if the Russians don't bomb churches or hospitals, no matter what some people are saying. And in any case, they said, oh yeah, they're going to be put in somewhere in the West for safekeeping and cellars. Well, it turns out they're being auctioned. There's an auction in Paris. That's the monastery is the Kiev Pechersk Lavra, and so the auction is called the Kiev Pechersk Lavra Treasures, and it's being auctioned off to mostly rich Parisians, but of course I believe it's going to be going to anybody in the world that has money. They go there and they're auctioning off all of the relics of the church, and I think a lot of the gold was taken and melted down because Zelensky said that's what he was going to do. So that's the biggest, so to speak, treasure of the Orthodox Church. The treasury is right there, is in that thing, and it's all now been stolen by those of this ideology and the heretic church. So technically, most of that is gone. It's just like the raiding of the Baghdad Museum of all of these old artifacts from ancient Sumeria. And I hate to say it, but Israel was heavily involved in that. And the Americans just sat back and watched people going in and coming out with loads of all these ancient artifacts. A lot of things have disappeared, like, maybe clay tablets, 4,000 years old. Some of the first writings, maybe in cuneiform or maybe pre-cuneiform writings, gone. Some things you see, photographs in history books, and now they're not to be found. So now it's going to be the same here. I guess that maybe in some ways history that repeats itself. So yes, and I'll mention some kind of mixed up things right along with the things about Ukraine here now. I just saw today, one of the last things I saw today, really terrible stuff. And I tell you, there's so many of these terrible videos, you know, that you see. Like this one was a German-made vehicle manned by Ukrainians, and they're going down some road, and on one side is a fields, farm fields, and the other side is some woods, and yeah, they're going down the road, and I think maybe they hear something, so they pull off, and I don't know how many of them, I didn't count them, maybe like 6 of them or something like that. And lo and behold, coming down the road behind them is some older model white cars, just a passenger car. And from the distance, you know, the Ukrainians come out and they shoot into the front windshield, and of course they probably killed the driver at that time, and then they go up, you know, even slowly, because they're just civilians, and you know they're not going to be armed probably. So they go up there and apparently they shoot the person who's ever in the back, and so they killed both of those people, and then this is recorded by a Russian drone, and then they show Ukrainian, you know, opening up the driver's seat door, and they pull out a man, dead of course already, and then they had already shot the boy in the back seat. I think it's probably a young teenager, and I think that's all that they show is just 2 people, and I don't know why the boy wasn't in the front. I don't know, but yeah, they just shot him. They just shot and killed him, and I think that was near Ugledar, and that was a recent thing. But you know, there's a lot of this kind of stuff going on, really terrible things. So, but that was yeah. You know, if you're anything like me or most of us, you're getting probably a lot sick of all this bloodshed and this leadership sending their people to get massacred in the front lines, just getting waves and waves of them. But it's not all Ukrainians now, and you know, you hear some people saying that, oh, they're what was it? What was that word? Sacrifice? No, they're using mercenaries as cannon fodder. Well, they are that. They're doing that too. So now the United States has been helping them, and they're setting up recruiting offices all over the world. Some of the recent ones, I believe, is Japan, and they have I think Japanese units now operating in Ukraine, and some of the other later ones. I just mentioned one the other day, you know, and everybody knows that they have them in USA and Canada and the UK, and now they have them also in Argentina, Iraq, Afghanistan, you know, and they showed a big group of Colombia, from South America, also mercenaries in Ukraine, and Syria. You know, I think it's the 10th military base that the U.S. has there, and the U.S. controls at least 3, what do you call them, freedom fighter camps. Some, they're not terrorists, no, you know, to fight against Assad and the Syrian army and all that sort of a deal. And you know that Turkey has some of them too, and I think, like I mentioned in a video, that's kind of maybe one reason that Erdogan was not, you know, was not shy about kind of turning against Russia after being on Russia's side for quite a few years here now. But I also heard now, what was it, between Seymour Hersh, I guess, put out that Erdogan was offered, I believe it was loans, IMF loans, between 11 and 13 billion US dollar loans. That was part of the deal, along with all the other deals, you know, the fighter jets and getting admission to the European Union. Like I said, it's a psychological thing. He'd been trying for 20 years, never been able to do it. And even though it's not going to get him anything, he's probably going to regret it. He just wanted to get into the, you know how when you want something for so long, so bad, it becomes part of your character or your culture, and to want this thing. And, well, he got it. What do they say? Be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Well, that's probably going to be, you know, the expression that Erdogan is going to wish he paid attention to. But yes, I mentioned already these terrorists here. Yeah. That's really mostly all I wanted to say. I saw some statistics. The biggest buyers of fossil fuels, Russian fossil fuels, is, of course, number one is China. And believe it or not, number two is the European Union. The European Union. And Spain is the biggest purchaser of U.S. fossil fuels, you know. So however it gets there, you have to, maybe they're piping it all the way through Germany and France to get to Spain. I don't really know. I don't know if it's going by ship. And then, of course, the third place is India. And number 4 is Turkey. And Spain gets, I guess, just under 27% of the amount of oil and natural gas that Europe is exporting from Russia. So they get, and that's the biggest portion, I suppose. But anyways, to me, the biggest news was, was this thing with the mercenaries. And also, I should mention, apparently, somebody caught this. I don't know who that was. It was during this NATO summit that, I believe it was during the NATO summit. I don't know if it was right before, but that, I think it was Biden telling Zelensky that he has to get the Crimea, that is the goal. And of course, that's been something that I've been talking about ever since the beginning. I've been talking about that ever since the beginning of this military operation, actually before that probably. Because I learned that in the university, and I learned that in the military, you know, in some of these upper circles, a lot of these people. And the way I had it told to me was that the United States really wished that Russia would not have that presence in the Crimea, if they can get them out of the Crimea, because then, according to theory, Russia would cease to be an empire. And I think a lot of that was to do with, oh, they don't have a, what does it say, a port that's not frozen in the wintertime otherwise. You know, but I don't think that that's true, and I don't think it's true now. And I just, you know, along with that, I started thinking, you know, and I'm thinking, how stupid I was that I didn't think of this before. But I'll tell you, the reason why it's very significant that Sweden is now a part of NATO, and I've even said this myself, look at a map, you know, but I didn't look at a map. But if you look at a map and you look at the sea route for Russia to leave their territory, maybe Kaliningrad, which is kind of, it's not an island, but you can say it's a part of Russia that's detached from Russia. But if you don't know, that used to be Königsberg. That was the seat of the Teutonic Knights back in the old days. It belonged to Germany back then. So, but anyway, it's Kaliningrad, and they any ships that are leaving there and trying to reach the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, somebody got married over here. Now all of these countries are anti-Russia, and they're all NATO. And it really makes you wonder what they're going to do by trying to block Russian sea transport, especially, of course, military, you know, going through that area, except for maybe submarines. So Russia, like I was saying, and I think, I don't know if Andrei Martyanov was saying that, but I would have concentrated most everything as far as Navy is into submarines. I don't see any use in any of these other things. You know, any kind of frigates or, of course, aircraft carriers. I think Russia only has one, the Admiral Kustanov or whatever his name is. Anyway, some people must have got married here in the Beijing hotel. Getting filmed there, I suppose. So, the major goal, in my opinion, this is my theory based on things I've learned myself, and to me it's undeniable, that the whole thing, at least as far as a lot of the presence of the United States. 你好 And nice Chinese people, Oriental people, always have that nice smile. So, anyway, what was I talking about? Yes, and I'll tell you, my theory is, it's actually not a theory that the U.S. wants to have NATO, which means the U.S., of course, to get the Crimea. But my theory is that that's going to be the payment. And it's not that the United States gets it, but the U.S. gets like a, who knows, 200-year lease for a price of next to nothing, maybe deferred payment of 50 years or something like that, where they don't have to pay, and then they get their Crimea. But everybody knows that's not going to happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Short of having a nuclear war or something, Russia's never going to give that one up. And I don't know. But the U.S. wants it. And like I said, they usually just wanted, at least when I was in, and I had like some of these classes, Soviet area studies, I had a few, had a friend that was really, really good in that. He was one of the top students in the University of Washington, but anyway, I'm sure he might have even told me that too, but yeah, they wanted to kick Russia out, and now, of course, since they've been having so much success of taking over all these countries and putting them into NATO, obviously, it's to me it's obvious, is they want the presence there now. Instead of just kicking Russia out of there, they want the Crimea. I mean, everything points to that. So, but the U.S. presence, I'll tell you what, I lived in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a small island, right near Grenada. If you remember Ronald Reagan's escapades in the 1980s in Grenada, well, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is right next to that, and one of the most, is it the most? No, it's not the most southern island, but the next to the most southern island. But the other island that's more south, you can see it from this. You can't swim it. You can take a little motorboat, put a motor on a rowboat or something if the sea is calm, and then jet over there. Some people do. It's 15 minutes or something on a boat. But anyhow, that would be Union Island, and then you can practically swim to Grenada from there. That's how close it is. So, and anyway, the U.S. has a Coast Guard base there, and yeah, and they launch drones from there towards Venezuela. So that's one way how they keep an eye on Venezuela is with drones there. And then I'll tell you some other stuff about St. Vincent too. When I was there, I had it's kind of strange because they have Peace Corps there, but I can't really say. There used to be a lot of spies in Peace Corps back in the old days, even though that's strictly not allowed. But I never saw any spies really in Peace Corps. I talked to some of those guys, and I was friends with one. I can't say that he was. Some people say he's a real heavy into the Democratic Party, of course. So, and he loves NPR. NPR is his favorite. Nothing to him is better than NPR, National Public Radio. But anyway, the spies that I did see, I saw two spies. One was a Catholic. He was a Catholic priest, and he certainly probably was a Catholic priest. I don't think the Catholic Church would have ever sent him there unless he was a Catholic priest. But he was also a spy, and sometimes I can spot a spy, and he's a spy. This guy, I believe he was probably special forces in the U.S. military. He didn't spend too much time having anything to do with religion. He was out in certain parts of the country. He was watching, and it's not the government, as far as I know, but he was watching the drug trade. Maybe things that come from South America, and they drop it off at St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then they ferry it over up to other islands throughout the Caribbean. or maybe it was just marijuana from St. Vincent. The United States used to go to St. Vincent and firebomb by airplane and I think maybe by helicopter. But anyway, they used to firebomb the marijuana fields there because people would grow up marijuana up by the volcanoes there. And some of that is addressed in a book called Hidden Agendas by John Pilger, Pulitzer Prize winning author, journalist. And yeah, but another spy I met, came just temporarily. I might have mentioned that before. And that was somebody sort of like, I guess, masquerading in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, believe it or not. And I tell you, a lot of things are really sick, like I was started out this video talking about, them stealing the artifacts and then auctioning them off. And it's also kind of sick, for people to act like they are part of some religion. I don't know. I mentioned last time too about this religion where they tell everybody to starve themselves to death. That cult religion in Kenya. But this one too. They act like they are sympathetic to that religion, and they're probably just infiltrators. And they use the religion. They can get to different parts of the world. And matter of fact, this lady, which I won't even say what she was doing there, but I even strongly believe, but they didn't mention names, that she was paying or partly paying for secondary, like university educations for some of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to go to university. And it's like a lot of people don't do that out of their pocket. I knew a dentist that did that. He was part of the Rotary Club, and somehow he would get, through the Rotary Club, and he would get together, and he didn't even want it to be known, but he was no spy. He actually was a pilot in, I think, the Korean War, and he was wounded or something, had a bad hip problem. But I had good friends with him, and he died some years ago on like Halloween, 31st of October. He lived in Oregon, Corvallis, Oregon. Dr. Lon Jensen, if any of you happen to be living in Oregon. I think there's a website, I think the Lon and Mary Jensen Foundation. You can probably look that one up. Terrible. I only found that out looking it up by accident. His wife probably did not have my email address and all that. All this death lately, anyway. His was some years ago, unfortunately, but this stuff going on like in Ukraine and sending people. I guess when you get older, me like being 23 years old, as you see, you get older and you hear a lot more of people passing, and you don't like to certainly see people passing before their time, but then you get attached to some of the other ones that even if they do in their time. And I have other friends that are in their 80s, and yeah, I'm not 80, by the way. I don't know if I'm quite a bit younger than that, but I'm younger than that. But so you better subscribe before it gets too far, and I do get 80. So anyhow, actually, I can get more subscribers if I want. I found out how to do that. You just go to some place where there's some young people, and you film them and say, hey, I'm from YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and you tell them your email address, as you all noticed, and they go and they look, they tell their friends and all that. Maybe I'll do that to get more subscribers, and then start getting things kicked off if I ever get that desperate. No, it's not that it's desperation or nothing. But anyway, so that's about all I have to say right now, and which is probably more than you want to hear. So let's just hope a lot of this stuff ends in Ukraine a lot more. But I tell you, I think it's going to have to get a lot worse before it gets better. A lot of these people, they care nothing about human life. They'll sacrifice anybody, even their own people. They don't really care. They just put on a show as if they care, as long as they get their white nose powder and their money and their fame, which is dwindling, I guess, right now. That's all they care about. Well, anyway, that's all I have to say for right now again, and Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.